Hi, welcome to SBR Videos. I'm Peter Loshak. We are previewing Week 5 in the NFL right now with Joe Duffy from OffshoreInsiders.com. I asked him to take a look at Cleveland and Baltimore, and this is an interesting game, Joe, because Baltimore a pretty healthy favorite right now, 6.5 points. They haven't been a good bet this year, though. They're 0-3-1 against the spread on their closing lines, and they've just Joe Flacco just doesn't really have a vertical downfield threat. They don't have the weapons to really make their offense as explosive as it could be with him back there, so they haven't really been getting covers here. They're a 6.5-point favorite. They are off of a long week, though, right? Their last game was on Thursday, and Cleveland's last game was at San Diego, where they took sharp action, and they did get the cover, although they lost straight up. Josh McCown looking, serviceable for the time being as a quarterback for Cleveland. He was okay last week, so it's not a disaster right now for Cleveland. They're getting 6.5 points. Is that enough? And how much of a benefit does Baltimore get from the extra rest? What do you think, Joe Duffy?
I don't think the extra rest is going to make that big of a deal. When you look it up, it generally does not. But look, the Ravens, they have not been impressive at all this year. They're only 1-3 straight up, and their only win was in overtime, in which, of course, Josh Scobie had to miss a couple field goals. Look, I'll confess that last year I went in the worst 3-month stretch of my life with bad beats, and I'm talking about not just 20 years of professional handicapping, but about 40 years of betting. This year I'm getting some breaks. I did have Baltimore last Thursday. I released it and bet it at 2.5. I guess most people did get a push if they bought it on game day. But the point being, from a handicapping standpoint, Baltimore probably should be winless. Now, it's not to say they are clearly a better team than Cleveland. Look, I don't understand Patton. The Cleveland's only win, which was also a humongous play for us, was with Johnny Football as a starting quarterback. So, of course, what does Patton do? He pulls Johnny Football and he goes back to McNown, and I don't understand that at all. He was a terrible quarterback in Tampa, so that's a very bizarre decision. Also, with the Ravens, they're without the ageless wonder, Stephen Smith Jr. He's like me, muscular, and he seems to never age. Well, okay, I guess not like me, but he is a big weapon who is out in the state. Campanaro is really developing into a bigger role. He's out, so neither one of these teams have weapons. I think this is going to be another low-scoring game, but I will say this, those people who bet the live line, if Cleveland's trailing and Johnny Manziel comes in, I would take serious consideration of betting the Browns on a live line.
All right, you're pretty down on McCown, but I mean, last week he was okay. Maybe he wasn't a superhero back there, but he got the job done. I mean, he certainly, from an ATS perspective, got the job done for anyone who backed Cleveland last week.
I mean, look, he's a journeyman quarterback. I think at best you're talking about maybe, the 28th best starting quarterback in the NFL. He's not very good. Look, not to say that Johnny Manziel has proven that he is ready to start in the NFL, but I think he's at least every bit as good as McNown is. And he's a little bit of a spark plug. So I'm not really impressed with either one of these offenses. And Joe Flacco, remember, he's a much better postseason quarterback than he is a regular season quarterback anyway. I think, at best, Flacco's an average regular season and a well above average postseason quarterback. So again, with him without his weapons, and Cleveland is Cleveland. And Terrell Suggs is out for the year for Baltimore, but they're still pretty strong on defense. And Cleveland, they did struggle against San Diego, but I talked about how Phillip Rivers, you never know when he's going to explode. Cleveland's defense was pretty good last year. So these are two pretty solid defenses and two teams with very few weapons. I think it'll be a low-scoring game.
All right, Joe, well, I definitely like your recommendation to think about playing Cleveland on their live line in some way if they get down big early. Right now the line is Baltimore minus 6.5. Total's 43 or 43.5. Is this going to be a pass for you, Joe Duffy, or would you like to grace us with a free pick recommended play here?
I'm not a big fan of betting low totals under, but still, all in all, I think if this goes over, the defenses will have to put the game over, with a big turnover and whatnot. So I will say I will grace you with a free play on the under.
Under, currently 43.5 is one of the market numbers. Thanks so much, Joe. And your top plays, your not free plays, go at OffshoreInsiders.com. That's because there's value in those plays, right, Joe? Tell us about that.
Yeah, both college football and the NFL. Admittedly, I had to come from behind this week. I got up to bad starts, but had a phenomenal in college football, and then in the NFL, swept the Sunday night side and total, and then my only play was on the Monday night side. So we had winning weeks on both again, and I'm still researching, and we're recording this early in the week, but please visit offshoreinsiders.com for all the details about another winning week in college and pro football.
Okay, thanks so much, Joe.
Thank you, Peter.